Welcome to Hello Tomorrow. Hello Tomorrow is a podcast where we introduce remarkable individuals and their work to the world. A new episode will be available every fortnight on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major platforms. Now, over to Subhash.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another incredible episode of Hello Tomorrow. In this episode of the Growth series, we will be speaking with Madhusudhan Anand, whom we all lovingly call Maddie. Maddie is the co founder, CTO, and chief data scientist of Ambee. Hi, Maddie. Welcome to the show.
Hi Subhash, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Great. Thanks for joining us today. So, Maddie, let's jump right into the podcast. Can you quickly let us know about your education and your previous work experience?
Sure, Subhash. I have a master's in data science and I also have a master's in computer applications. And mostly I'm an electronics major. I have worked for over 17 years now. And my first company was Dell. And then I moved on to work with Avaya. And then I had my own company called Atom Technologies. I worked in it for a while, and then I moved on to working with Hacker Earth, and now from 2017, it's last 3.5 years, I've been working for Ambee.
Wow. Could you quickly give us a little background of what you had done with Atom Technologies?
Sure, Atom was a startup. Atom stands for Aggregation and Distribution on Mobile. It was a transport and logistics application startup which solved numerous problems from telematics to all the way to fleet management, management of resources, routing, and plenty of other use cases to different transport segments and logistics segments. And this was, pre-Uber, pre-Ola days, and there were all these Meru cabs, and we had a solution that even anybody moving, and this was all just about when Android had started to pick up, and we were all beginning to see the power of Google Map of GPS.
Yeah.
That is when we started looking at how we can help different industries from pharma to transport to logistics, and this is also pre-e-commerce times, and deliveries had just started. Flipkart was still selling books, but they still needed a logistic solution, and there were plenty of requirement for consignment tracking. So we had a fleet management consignment tracking, come Uber for X, Uber for Y, we call it now, but we used to plainly call them Atom Technologies at that time.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So what happened with Atom? It got acquired?
Yes, we went through an acquisition by another company. The algorithms that we developed included some very interesting algorithms that were still being put to use at least a couple of years ago, and it got acquired by another transport and logistic consignment tracking company whose name I don't think I should mention on the air.
Yes, sure,
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure you might have some clauses where you do not have to. But yeah, great acquisition. And post that, you ended up starting Ambee, right?
Yes, after that, Ambly happened to me. I was, looking at what I should do next because the acquisition was quite handsome and the experience was of building a startup in the last 4 years. And I was still 26, 27, 28 around the time when I started building Atom Technologies. And it was quite gratifying. So there's plenty of learning, and I was just looking at what I could do, and Ambly just happened to me. That was a time I quit from Hacker Earth and I started working on Ambee.
Was there a certain motivation to start Ambee? How did it happen?
Yes, plenty of motivations. One is, um, a personal story aside, how it all came into being, helping improve my own son's understanding my own son's breathing, and also the statistics that there are 82.5 million mothers with children under the age of 5 who suffer from asthma on purely because of air pollution, and how 7 million deaths happen across the world every year. It's all caused to air pollution. 8 out of 10 diseases are attributed to air pollution. And this was all 2014, 2015 when nobody were really considering looking at air pollution. And when I started digging in deeper, I started to understand that how greenhouse gas emissions affect everything pretty much. And this was sort of a time where there wasn't enough data. If you had to know why there is increase in apparent temperature or shortage of rainfall or increase in flood suddenly in certain parts of India, we've seen it in Kerala, we've seen it in Chennai, we've seen it in Western Ghats, and plenty of places in the Northeast. There were not proper data to answer all of these natural calamities, and how can we be prepared as a humankind, as a planet. So that's where a mission began to not just improve the health of hundreds and millions of people, but improve the health of the planet itself. And that was a motivation to start Ambee.
Wow, that's quite an ambitious motivation. When did you start it and how far have you come?
Well, if you have to see the kind of ground we've covered, we started in 2017. I was working on it since 2015. I was alone, but I started looking at forming a team. The progress was slow because my research process and my previous experience of building Atom and everything around three things I learned about process, people, and product. And everything needs validation today. A lot of us go out to talk about only product validation. There are a lot of these canvas, there's BMC, there's plenty of things that tell you. And but the most important bit we miss out validating are the people and the process. And that is where I took my time and I finally validated the approach, the plan required to find the right process first, and then the people, and then came the product. And then 2017, I started off Ambee. And if I have to see the ground we have covered now, we feel like we've come a long distance, but I think we've just started. We now, we were from being able to just monitor one building, uh, monitor the environment of that building, of that where I lived, of what environmental livability is affecting me, and how it is, how the air quality is, how much is dust, what's the kind of pollen that is, how the temperature and weather is impacting my family, and how different other elements that are around me, the factories and the industrial pollution, all of that, everything, the water I drink, the food I consume, how it is all affecting me, and what I can do to mitigate. To now, we have expanded that from one building to one city to 90 plus countries across the world, and we've become an environmental intelligence platform, not just tracking air, but we're also tracking air overall climate at a very high micro granularity, street by street level. We're giving out pollen data. We've launched we have launched in many countries. We're the first of a kind pollen information. In India, we are India's first pollen data that is scientifically viable, has actual pollen count that was unheard of. People are just were suffering from a lot of allergies. Somebody who might be listening to this could probably know someone or two people who might be suffering from allergy, or they might be suffering themselves, and those asthma attacks, and how these rhinitis and increase in respiratory problems have occurred. And there is no data, nobody really cares about pollen. But when this data came in, and the kind of customers that we are working with, from therapeutics to autoimmune therapies, we're solving both upstream and downstream problems to help fix this allergy issue. And then we are also monitoring climate. We're monitoring forest fires across the world. We're tracking, and we're actually one of those very few people, maybe one or two, who are actually able to predict forest fire ahead of any other prediction system or satellite in the world. And this gives us 1 hour heads up to anybody who wants to prevent a fire from happening. And that's the upstream problem I'm talking about. And then there is monitoring of soil. There's monitoring across the world, and there's also monitoring of water vapor, ethane, methane plumes, and greenhouse gas emissions, reading of emission inventory. And we are heading towards sustainability, carbon capture, and storage. So we've got plenty of at our hands right now, but we still like to say that we have only begun, and there is, this problem is massive, and we're just a very small team, and we've got a long, long way to go.
Super. Thank you for the extended answer and giving us more understanding of what all Ambie is involved into. What were the right things you feel you've done in finding the team?
Sure. So, you know, it just I'll just start to put out a lot of things on my point. It just comes to me to when it comes to people. I had a simple 3 point process. One is to understand to not never take advice from your loved ones, especially your friends and family, and always have a third person look in this. And I was practicing different mental models, and thankfully a lot of books helped me out. But it came down to 3 points. One is always know who helped you in difficult times, and then also identify the kind of people who left you in difficult times. And the third thing is who put you in difficult times. And every investor who rejected, who said, who will pay for air quality, nobody is really concerned. So things like this, that there are a lot of people who will say no to you, and there is you remember all of them and never forget anybody, any moment, in fact, and that will help you understand your own inner expectation that you have, which you should never have any sort of expectation, and open to life in such a way that ideas happen to you. And Ambee is it all began at a hackathon, and we had built something, and actually we were actually a team by then, right on that day. But right after the hackathon is over, sometimes vision is something that only you see, and nobody else can ever see it. So what Adam Grant also says, talks about that, you will do that extra 10x that only you uh, find real value and real meaning in it. So I pursued it onwards, and then today I just say that we still exist. We're doing pretty well. Not just exist, but we are working on something very, very disruptive, and that vision only not very few can see. And when you're evaluating people, you have to see if people align with your vision. One thing is what they say, but most importantly, you should focus on what they do about it. When you say, or this problem is there, and how much they associate that with. And when it comes to product, all the models, everything, they are good in their own place, but the real product value does not come from its features. Real product value does not come from how cool it looks or how much time you spend building it. The a value for a product comes from its customers, from its users who
Yeah.
pay for it. And a way to evaluate that is nothing like selling it even before you build it. So, and one last point is about the process. A process is very, very simple. It comes to just your interaction. Every interaction, the day you conceive an idea that becomes a vision, and you start working on it, you've got some sort of an extra energy beyond everybody else, and that comes only when you decide to pursue that idea in a way that you are ready to subject to change. You are letting anybody listen to you, and you are listening to others more than anything. And that is how the process comes.
That is a great thought process you have shared with us, Maddie. Because the thought process and how you perceive something makes a great difference when you end up getting to things, decisions, or things that you do. So yeah, great way that you have put it. So could you speak to us about the growth of Ambee or your previous startups? What were the few things you've done right to grow either Atom to the size that it got acquired or Ambee to the size it is right now? What are the few hacks that you have got, as well as any good hacks that you can suggest to people?
Sure. Speaking about growth, um, in Ambee, I've sort of put along with my other two co-founders, and in fact, I want to credit it to everybody who has involved in Ambee and been a part of it and continue to be. is the culture. I think growth is directly proportional to your culture in the company. And culture is not something that will, it definitely reflects your own thinking as a founder. You started it, how you interact to people, and what are your own values, what you stand by or stand up to. So those are certain things that add up. And you don't want to preserve your culture, you want to collectively sort of drive that right evolution of the culture. So everybody who wants to work on the product is directly seeing the impact. We had this Poland product I was talking about. When we built it, the team which built it directly heard from the user that they saved an asthma attack, that they saved a child's life. I mean, it's a direct impact. And when that kind of product is there, the users are becoming promoters. And thankfully, we our advertising also around has been with value. We are not just selling data; we are product partnering with our people who are consuming our data. So that is sort of been our growth mantra in a very brief way. We do a lot of things in the sense to bring that value. So three things we focus on. One is the culture at the company. The second is the value that we bring to our users. And the third is that we listen to what they want. And that is how we'll get to know the problem. To be able to build a product, understanding of the product is important. And not just you as a founder understanding it. Strategically, the team should understand, and they have to, work on it. So where what happens when you're designing, you need an optimal user experience of the product. Engineering will build a product, tells you how the technical product can drive that, and the product itself, where you set the product vision roadmap and you ensure that the company builds that, and you make trade-offs and you prioritize between plenty of design, engineering, business, and concerns. But if you have the right culture, those trade-offs are happening seamlessly and are happening in line to what the customer wants and the value that you're trying to build for in the problem that you're solving. So that is how the growth is happening today. We are operating despite COVID, despite us not being able to be in a marquee US company like everybody is going after. So being an Indian entity, we're able to take this product global and have global customers. That's been our growth story so far, and we still want to go after a lot more problem solving. And like I said, we've just begun.
Awesome. So Ambee is not just creating value for itself, but value for everyone around and value for almost every human in the world. So great that you've shared it with us. If you, we very much, the reason why we started Hello Tomorrow is also to create value in a small way, however we can, by talking to people like you who have done something remarkable, learned from good and learned from bad and went forward. So that is how we all like to create value. Thank you for sharing those 3 points on growth. If it is not a problem, could you also point to a few things that you might have done wrong through your startup career or your work career, from which you have learned and moved forward?
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of mistakes. And I think it's a necessary part of your evolution as a company. And you can, and I also know I will be, no matter how conscious or aware or well informed one is, you're all are bound to make mistakes. Like your first rocket will never launch. So I've made a plenty of mistakes in trying to understand what the first version of your product should be. It should what or who should be your co-founder. To who should you hire? Who should you let go? These are all things where I've made a lot of mistakes, and I perhaps can write a lot of things about how do you identify the right person to work with, and a lot of things that we do at Ambee if you are joining the team, because it's also not like what Jim Collins says in his book Good to Great. Is it's not about having the right people on your team. Also at times it's also having the wrong people of your team also. And as a founder, You have to be productive, contributing value yourself, but at the right time, you have to make sure that you get the right people, but also importantly, get the wrong people off the board really quickly and without being emotional, without having any biases around it. And second thing is that there is plenty of mistakes are made um, in identifying the MVP, a minimum viable product that we call, should not have all the features. It should not be the one great product that you would build in 5 years into the journey of your startup. Um, your minimum viable product should just have one problem that is better than the 20 features that your competition is having, which is mostly affecting your customer, and he's interested to give you a chance to grow, to build those the rest of the features. But that one feature shows your potential, shows how good you can be, and every interaction from the day you conceive an idea of your vision to continue working on your startup, every interaction from then on, including with yourself and to everybody else, is a sale, and you have to be the most honest salesman. In fact, when we were pitching about Ambee, when everybody were telling about how great your product is, how good, why should you invest in a company? In fact, we were talking about why you should not invest in a company. What will be that you should not invest, and that is what has led us to be a part of Techstars and tech accelerators like Techstars, Google Launchpad, and also get a few investors on board because they appreciate the honesty. And when they already know that this is why this is the real problem, and they are already informed about it. So instead of, when you're telling, a job of an investor is to identify the problems in a business model. But when you're actually talking about the problems and I'm looking to solve it, they become a part of the problem solving, and they don't identify the problem, and they'll join you on that, right? And this is a kind of a large problem that needs solving. It's very impactful. So that came out of making a mistake of only talking about good things about your product or the market itself. So those are some of the very, very important lessons.
So you've already mentioned in the previous statement, you have been a part of Techstars, Google Launchpad, Airbus Accelerator, Bosch Accelerator. How has the experience been through all of them, and how did you manage to spend time and join through all the accelerators?
It was, I think it was, I can't explain it in words. It was transformational, is how I'd like to put it together. Techstars and Google Launchpad, we got into. Um, Techstars happened at the beginning of the year, and your Google Launchpad at the end of the year. In between, Airbus BizLab and Bosch Accelerator happened at the same time. So a lot of things we learned. The experience has been great. At Techstars, the model was mentor model. Every day we would have mentor madness, and we would sit and learn from. I think we met more than 200 entrepreneurs in the 13-week program, while we had weekly milestone check and reviews every Wednesday, and plenty of learning from each other. We were growing really, really fast in terms of the product we were building and the conversations we were having with our customer, and it was sounding chaotic. It was very scary. In fact, Techstars alone is a very intensive, brain intensive, mind intensive. It starts at 8 in the morning, and you're still 8 p.m., and you're still hustling your way into identifying the problem areas or building some sort of feature in your product. Techstars helped us build what we thought we would build in 2 years. We built it in 3 months. And Google Launchpad took us out into market in a very, very big way. I can tell you, when we got into Google Launchpad, we were about getting 200-300 viewers, visitors on our website. Not even 100. Sometimes on a good day we were having 200. But today, fast forward, and it only took 13 weeks to us to realize and to start building. Just about a year from now, from our last cohort, we are about 15 to 18,000 website visitors every day on our website, and then plenty of things. We save more than 80% cost on our ML learning models by understanding Google best practices. And with Airbus BizLab, we understood so many things about sustainability that Airbus is doing, and plenty of other industries are doing around ESG, SDG. With Bosch, we understood plenty of things about aspects of engineering, quality, I mean, it's just probably it's 10 MBAs combined into one, and not just MBA, 10 masters in technologies combined into one. So it was just great experience. And the best part, looking at other startups, if you are at a really high growth stage at your company, it feels chaotic, scary, stressful shit show that it is. Don't worry, it is how it is for everyone, and just have to buckle up, enjoy the ride, and give your best.
Great, must be transformational, must be great learning. So, what would be the few suggestions that you would give anyone from your life's learning? It need not be a startup focused. But then can you give any of few of your life's learning from general point of view?
In terms of general purpose, okay, sure. Let me tell you this. I am coming from a perspective as well, but this is my own opinion that the future is actually belong to someone who is continuously learning and combining all that learning in really your own creative way. That is where the kind of people to whom the future will belong to. And everyone around you will always be trying to bring you under the pull of their emotions, change your or influence your ideas by the day or hour, depending on their mood. But you should never go into their understanding uh, to what people say or do in a particular moment or a statement, because nobody is going to help you or give you direction. In fact, all the odds in the universe, when you try to do something on your own, all the odds are against you, and it is your job to fight it out. And time is actually a really important ingredient if you use it properly. I think focus and what you want to do on the subject that you're interested in, and when you give it time, like Robert Greene says, you will achieve mastery. And mastery is very, very important for you to excel in any field you are. Anybody is doing whatever they are, you have to be very cognitive of the time that you spend in and how you waste that ingredient or you put it to something use. So take time as something that you're losing constantly and you don't want to lose it. And it's very, very important how on what you spend it. Even if it is to sit on Netflix, there has to be some return from it. Even if it has to be reading a book, there has to be some return from it. It's your expensive. It's like, take it like this. It's like your expensive gym fees subscription that you paid for a whole year. But if you don't go, then you're losing the value from it.
Yeah.
But if you do go, then it is very, very important. Because time is like that. So always make sure where you spend it. I
Yeah.
think those are simple things. Time leads to mastery, and you have to be focused about it.
Very well put. Because you read a lot, could you probably point us to a few books from a startup point of view and few books from a normal point of view that you would suggest the listeners to read?
Actually, that you put me on a spot because it's really very, very hard. Um, I mean, you just need to enjoy reading to start with. But I would like to say, if you're just beginning out to achieve anything at all, okay, if you're not even reading books, not into reading books, and you want to start, I highly recommend this book from. Um, it's called 10x by Grant Cardone. It's a very, very important, very useful book. I think right after that book, a lot of things are going to change for you. If there is one book that will stand out to get you started, that is the other one, that book. And for startups, and there's other general reading. There are plenty of books. I think Robert Greene books are really good. Uh, the one that stands out, of course, is Mastery, and then there is few other book around the great mental models, range, value proposition by design. And if you also like to read, there is also The Victorious Mind, and Inspired is another book. High Growth Handbook, Obstacle is the Way. I mean, I can just go on. I also maintain a separate book to understand. It's very important that you read to understand that. And for startups, the hard thing about hard things, 0 to 1, these are really important books that will open your idea into capitalism, to idea into starting up. And then there is another book that will, when you have, if you have already started up, this is the one book that you have to read. It's called Rework, one of my favorite books from one of my favorite authors. That's Jason Fried and I think David Heinemeier Hansen. These are really good books. It will help you change the way you work forever. That's the tagline of the book as well. So those are some of the books I'd like to recommend, and there's plenty, but I think that I've given enough numbers or names already.
Yeah, I understand the book are more of a personal choice and depends on each individual's personal choice and what kind of books they like. But then the reason why I asked you is I do understand from our interactions before that books have played a very major part in your understanding of various things on you forming a few opinions, and they've also helped you with your growth personally. That is the reason I had asked.
Yes, Subhash, definitely. I mean, they have been my, uniquely portable magic that has given me plenty of answers where Google fell short, where everybody I met fell short. I found my resonance and answer and my piece to in those books. So there are plenty of book categories I read also around technology. There are plenty of books, business development, sales, growth, philosophy. So sleep is good, they say, but books are better. So I go with that quote. So it's really amazing. You get to read what other people thought at some point of time and gives you a lot of experience without you making those mistakes.
Yeah, and have you done anything different or made a few changes in your through your life that affected you or brought you to what you are right now?
Yes, definitely. I made quite a lot of changes, which I don't regret. Number one is I cut out almost all things that were people that were wasting my time, including my friends or the weekend getaways that you always plan. I also did not give in to escapism that people, even when I was working, I had a 12 years corporate career before I shifted out. And throughout it, most of the time I used to see my colleagues would wait for a day off or a long weekend so they could just go while they're not dealing with the problem that they're facing at their work. 3 day escapism found them peace, a temporary peace, and they were happy with it. I could not do that. First of all, I quit that job. Then I quit most of my friends. I was completely isolated. A lot of my social life took a beating. But things are better. In fact, now I made better friends. So it's very important who you spend the most time with because you become, one of them, and you have to make sure you spend the time with people who are better than you. And that became very, very important, and that really, really works. Then I also started reading a lot, and over last few years I've started taking care of my health and making sure I spend time with my family, no matter how late or where I am, what happens, I'm back home for dinner with my family. So those are some other changes. So health, time with family, spending time with the right kind of people who actually not be on hero on all your WhatsApp chats groups. Don't subscribe to all those extra things that, like those streaming subscriptions to things that don't give you proper learning or help you go in the direction that you are interested. So those are some of the changes I made. And health, importantly, staying fit. I think I was losing that plot. My health was deteriorating, but over the last year I pulled it really back, and that has sort of 10x my productivity.
And let me also take this opportunity to recognize the learning I have had from our interactions over the last 5 or 6 years. Thank you for thank you for sharing your opinions, feedback from time to time, which really helped me immensely.
Actually, I should be saying that, Subhash, it's not like mutual appreciation, but I do really genuinely mean that what you do is very, very important to the world, and we don't really have. Like I said, we don't have a Tim Ferriss in India, and perhaps this could turn out to be one such podcast that gives out a lot of value. And I'm very happy that my story has been telling my story in your podcast has been, and being a part of your story has been my opportunity. It's an honor. So thanks so much for doing, and it's great learning from you, and a lot of things I've learned from you as well. And I wish you really all the best.
Thanks a lot. And let me also bring this to our listeners that this podcast is being heard in 10 countries across the world, starting with India, the US, Spain, Romania, Belgium, the United Kingdom, Singapore, Italy, Tunisia, and Switzerland. So, thank you to my listeners from these 10 countries, and I hope this reaches more parts of the world and more people get to take some value out of this endeavor that I have started off with. So that's all from me, Maddie. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks a lot for making time and joining. This is an immensely knowledgeful session that we have had today.
It's a pleasure to be on this show. And for your listeners, who I'm sure are listening in, that means that they are in some form looking for answers to improve themselves, to improve their life, living, startup, profitability, relationships, or anything. I just want to say that keep learning and keep improving. Never take your eyes off your goal. Stay focused, and when you need help, ask. There's plenty of help around the order. And somehow, whatever you're working, the universe has a way, like will has a way to make your dream happen. You just have to keep working towards it. Wish you all the very best. Thanks for having me on the show, Subhash.
Thanks for joining this. And listeners for whom they want to get their hyper local pollution data, please visit indiaairpollution.com or globalairpollution.com. Just key in your city or your street and it will you can populate the latest pollution data. Have a great week ahead and wait for my next podcast with another remarkable guest.
Please do subscribe and share our podcast and do join us on this journey of learning.